Hello and welcome to Open Social Media Initiative. My name is Sharon Ureni. I am your host and founder of these weekly workshops. Today I am honored to have Randy Bowden to teach us about how to create a marketing budget. Before we start with the introductions and presentations, I wanted to remind you that we use the hashtag OpenSM. So if you're inclined to share what you learn here on Twitter or Google+, you can use that hashtag. Also remember that after our show, if you're typing, please mute yourself. Thank you. And wanted to remind you that after the presentation, we have our weekly news update about social media, and we're going to discuss the implications of it. And finally, the final segment is reviewing the tools of efficiency. Okay, so now before I give the floor to Randy, I'd like to introduce him. So I'm going to read his bio. So after spending 26 years in the corporate world in various marketing roles within one of the largest utilities in the nation, Randy grew tired of the grind and sought a new challenge. Randy entered the nonprofit market, taking the position of Director of Marketing and Corporate Relations for a national organization, overseeing all brand and touch elements, print, web, TV, and national conventions. Randy also holds the position of Director of Public Relations for National Recreational Real Estate Company and a boutique video production company. In 2010, Randy and his wife Shayla, also a professional marketer, formed Bowden to Bowden LLC, a marketing and brand consultancy firm. So as you can see, Randy brings with himself years and years of experience in marketing and budgeting, and that is why I invited Randy. Welcome to our show, and maybe I should have a little bit of background. Once I wrote a blog post about the fact that just having traditional marketing is not necessarily an asset with respect to knowing how to execute social media, and Randy left a passionate response in saying that, well, there are many people that know how to do so. Maybe they know how to do social media, but they don't know how to budget. And I found that very interesting, and I thought, well, maybe we should change that equation. So I invited Randy to come teach us about budgeting, and I'm so thrilled that he accepted my invitation. So Randy, you have the floor, and please enlighten us with your knowledge.
Well, I think I'll try, Sherry. I first of all, let me applaud you for what you're trying to do or what you're doing. You're succeeding. I've watched your shows and been educated quite a bit. So you're reaching and you're starting a pathway that probably is very much needed inside of the space. Applaud Google for setting these venues up to allow this to happen. It's an easy, although I need to be coached with some of this, as you know, it's good. But I want to start by saying, first, thank you for having me, and two, back to your introduction of how you and I came across. I share passion about marketing, much like what I experience with the people that probably practice social media as their niche. I dabble in social media because it's part of the marketing mix. So, and I'm very excited, intrigued. It's opened a whole new world to marketers. It's opened a whole new world to me. Relationships are fun to engage with, but I see that a lot of times, and this doesn't have anything to do with the marketing mix, it has to do with people setting up businesses. They never really think about, well, how am I going to market myself? You know, and that's beyond the marketing dilemma of how am I going to get this business off the ground. So I prepared a short presentation, and we'll kind of go through it, and then I guess I'll throw it back to you and we can do some question and answers about what I have to say. Let me see if I can operate this.
In the meantime, I'm monitoring my stream, so if you have any questions, you're welcome to, if you're not an active participant, post it on the comments below the video, and I'll be able to ask Randy for you.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, again, thank you. This is your show, Sherry, and I appreciate you inviting me along. Let's talk about, you know, everything comes down to mathematics. How are you going to run your business? How much money are you going to need to launch this business? What are you going to need to spend to get your product or your services on the shelf to start delivering to the public and the consumer? So mathematics, that's the basic thing in life. You know, you got to run your business just like you run your budget at home. But once you get that established, how are you going to identify the niche that you're going to reach? You know, who is your target audience? You know, who's going to buy your product and service? You need to do that research, much like you did that research when you're building your overall business plan. You need to put that together. So once you identify that, you know, there's various vehicles in the marketing mix of getting your message out. You know, and those traditional methods of television, radio, print, billboard are out there. Now, when you say television, well, that's not necessarily me, depending on what your product or what your business is. If it's a local, regional, or a national or international, depends on what kind of television buy that you might be in the market to do. And there's buys to hit each one of those segments. Same thing with radio. Radio has not gone away. However, it has changed quite a bit, but there's a tremendous impact on a local reach from a radio buy that you target towards the morning and afternoon drive still in the marketplace out there. So you can benefit depending on, you know, again, what your target is. Print, same thing with print. Print is a valuable resource. Price points have come down. Naturally, a lot of people fear that print's going away. I think that argument is valid. It has changed quite a bit. I deal with print quite often. It's still valid, but there again, come back to a local business. If you're a local, regional, you know, or national business, you can buy print ads locally that are going to serve your business or service. Billboards are something that's often overlooked. I love billboards. Billboards are billboards are what started billboards on the internet. So billboards are still active. People say they're not, but you know, tell me that you don't drive down the road and see any billboards going up all the time, especially the new electronic billboards, which are awesome. Just got back from Vegas, and you can't argue with the billboard advertising that goes on in that kind of landscape. But think about if you're running a small operation, a T-shirt shop, or a some kind of service shop in the area, a billboard targeting a billboard buy in your area pointing to your location can reap big rewards. And then the category of internet, that's where that's where we all work today. That's where the most attention is, and that's where the social media sphere is occurring. It's a bevy of activity and something coming at us every day. New changes out there. So those are the vehicles that you need to concentrate. It's as simple. There's no rocket science to that, but it goes back to the mathematics. What is your business? Here are my vehicles that are available to me to advertise my business. Now, how can I afford them? Do I have the money? Which ones are going to benefit me? Do I need to concentrate in that? So once you've identified that, you need to look around and say, well, I've got some competition in the area. What are they doing out there? How are they advertising? Which one of these vehicles are they using to hit the market and to tell everybody, what kind of great pleasure that they can bring to their lives? How competitive were they? What are they doing? And if you are maintaining momentum, and meaning that your business has already been up and going, then, you know, how did you feel against that competition last year? Now, if you're an upstart, you want to do the background work to look to see, you know, what's happening there, and where you're going to have to concentrate, what steps you might have to take to overcome somebody that might already be embedded in that market. Or are you you know, a fresh out of the box type idea that's coming to the marketplace for the first time? You know, that's the type competition that you're going to have to analyze. We always have to look at history. You know, what worked for us in the past. You know, we bought a bunch of print and we saw no results, because you're always measuring and monitoring. So we saw no results. Well, were those prints, were those media buys in the right place? Did you place them right? You know, and then also, if they worked, you know, how can you tweak them to get a little bit of more cabbage out of them, so to speak? So you pay attention to the future, always look back and you know, weed out what's not working for you. You got to look at your sales figures. What we're going to talk about is a budget, you know, so you got within your overall budget, if you're an upstart, you're setting your budget to build your business. The marketing portion of that budget is a percentage. Industry average is around 10 to 20% of gross revenues. Well, if you're upstart, you don't really know, so you got to use a forecast, your projection out there, and set that money aside to use that. So there again, go back and look at your history. You know, if you're maintaining momentum and you're wanting to increase your growth, you know, see where the good spots were, tweak those and replicate those. Certainly, if you identify that some of your buys were not very beneficial to you, then you want to reallocate that money into areas or experiment with areas that might be. There again, I mentioned 10 to 20% gross revenue. I think the latest CMO studies show that that's pretty standard. That's what I have identified in my career. Typically been in the 20% range of an operation company. So, you know, depending on the scale, you know, that's your budget. But to bring that back to reality, I would say that a 10% allocation is good, but to give you some insight, about 16% of the overall businesses are 5 to 6% of their gross revenues, and 23% out there are over that 6% range. So that tells you, and then, you know, you got to look at that 5 to 6% range. I deal with operations and interview people all the time that say I allocated 0. So, you know, it's coming to reality of you have to market yourself and you have to put some money there and get rid of the idea that, you know, I built it and they're going to come. So the money is going to speak for itself. So there again, I'm saying that a 10% budget is a good starting point. If you're an upstart, I would lean more towards the 20%. You got to be found. You got to get the word out. You got to spend the effort out there to do that. And another thing that you must consider, and you have to consider, and anybody that's in the social media space certainly understands this, is you have to work at it. You know, that doesn't mean that you sit at the office or the bakery shop or the t-shirt shop and you just wait for somebody to come in. You've got to get out and you've got to network. So you got to dedicate that time to the media buy that you're placing to use your face, your brand. You become the brand of the organization to get out and network. You know, so and if you start working that network of business out there, then you're going to start seeing the return, because everything's going to measure. You know, you're looking for a return on your investment. You're looking on a return on your time. So you put those together. A good rule of thumb, and it's a rule of thumb, about $10 additional for every dollar you spend. So you can replicate that back towards, you know, the hours that you spend. If you spend a few hours a day on writing content for a blog, writing content for your business, then you're going to reap those benefits beyond. Once you start that networking, anybody that's worked in social understands that once you build that audience, people start sharing your brand, start sharing your ideas, start sharing your, and you start networking and building and touch points beyond that. Now, I'm going to close with one thing, or close with slides, and we can start discussing it further, but this is what you need to make sure that you don't do. You know, and I said this earlier. There's a lot of people out there that will gladly take your money. There's a lot of ad sales guys that will gladly sell you print media out there. But it's on you to look at your business, to seek out and make wise choices of where your market is, and two, you gotta cut and chase on the fly. If something's not working, you know, bail. If it just doesn't work for you, bail. But I will say, look around, and some of the traditional avenues out there, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I guess I will close by saying, and Sherry and I've communicated quite often, that we spend a lot of time in social, and there seems to be, I think Sherry and I had a conversation one time before, that traditional media might be going away. Well, that's far from the truth. If anything, traditional media is engulfing social media into their mix. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody that is a agency or a big box out there understands social media today as it is. I certainly do not, because I learn something new every day. It's the fastest changing medium out there is. I guess I could say that television, maybe print, and all those are changing relative to, because of the impact of social media, but they're all learning. So that's my spill from a presentation point, but I'd like to open it up for discussion, and we can go into whatever I shared with you a little deeper if you'd like, Sherry.
Great, thank you very much. I have a few questions, and then we can ask our audience if they have a question. I don't come from a marketing background, so there's a few terms that I'd like to know the meaning of, and you're the perfect person to ask. What's the difference between earned, owned, and paid media?
Well, earned media would be social. Okay, earned media is you create some content, and some people start sharing your whatever, your widget, your whatever around there. So you earned that media. You built it, you earned that, you did the legwork for it. Buy media goes back to the traditional media that you place. You create a commercial, you create a print, you create a post, and you place that. So that could be Facebook advertising. Would fall into that paid medium too. So that would be the differentiation there.
But what do people mean by owned media?
Owned media would be a unique delivery of your own. In other words, I would say that what Sherry is doing right now with although it's placed on Google Hangout, what Sherry's doing with Social Initiative is Sherry Nunari's and Captive Touch owned media. That falls into that place.
Oh, that's interesting. So I own media, yay!
Well, this is your own channel, your own distribution of what you own. You have the right to brand it, to deliver whatever message you want. You've chosen to name it a certain way, and it's a Captive Touch, and the niche is that you're delivering insightful information, helpful information, education avenue towards the social space, those that have interest in social space and marketing or that type delivery.
That's great. Oh, wow. Thank you. That made me feel a lot better. And I feel like with Google Plus, Google gave us a voice. We've had a voice before through other social media channels, but it's these Hangouts have been basically a life changer for me.
And gaining ground. Google has really started to chip away at the market. There's more. I mean, every day, there were the naysayers 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago that Google Plus would never make it. Couldn't beat the big F. But I think
yeah, there's always naysayers.
Yeah, well, that's true in everywhere. I try not to buy into those politics all the time. I like to debate. You know that I'll debate with any of them, but I try not to buy into those politics because I see it happening, as I mentioned, so fast that what is good today might not be flavorful next week, and there might be a whole new flavor next week that it immediately ignites. So that's not to say that the big F is going away. I'm certainly wouldn't think that Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. Those are valuable properties, but there's room for others.
Yes.
And I just read a study this morning where people are taking a break from Facebook. That's once something like that starts, you pay attention to it. Now, with an audience of 1 billion people, a few could take a break, and it's still a valuable buy. So
yes, and I think those who take a break come back eventually.
Sure.
So can you define? These are some questions that I have that I'd like to sort of as an educational thing for me. When you see advertised media buyer, is that a specific skill that would be, how do I say it, would be valuable for a social media agency to add to their tool set? Like, is a media buyer value, like, has relevance? Go ahead, answer.
Okay. A media buyer might reside, say let's look at an agency, or let's look at a corporation with a large public relations department or marketing department. Most of those might have an in-house media buy. In other words, you have a marketing department that delivers a idea, a concept of the push. Then the media person who maintains those contacts within the television network or the print media, he has those contacts, so he knows how to work those deals. It's just a person that works the deals to place the market. In other words, buying in bulk, and they understand that. So as far as you, it would take some doing. I mean, could you share in captive touch, buy media for your clients? Sure, you could do that. You could set yourself up to do that. And it would take very little education. The problem that you deal with and what happens is agencies, large box agencies, get a discount. And they buy from your local television show, local television network, national television network. There's always agency discounts that they deal with. They might be privy to because they buy in volume, they might be privy to a bigger discount than the small fry out there.
I see. So then the way I look at it is the person who has media buy experience and they would bring those connections with them. So that would be the value they would bring. For example, if you were going to
that's correct. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're a marketer or a salesperson or whatever. Their skill set would be in that, just like the guy that works at a factory that is in procurement. He works that deal, so it's the same thing.
Great, thank you very much. That clears up so many things for me. How much QR codes do you think plays a role in today's marketing to connect online with print?
I think that there's still a lot of misconceptions about QR codes out there. I think there's people that have got it and they're utilizing that. They understand the benefit of QR codes. There's still some misconceptions of what QR codes are, I think, out there. So there again, it's hard to utilize that. I mean, I think Scott Stratton talks about getting the QR code on his phone, which is a hilarious presentation he did. I do know that. I think he mentioned on the billboard. I do know that there's a billboard where you're coming in I-75 from north heading south into Atlanta, Georgia, right as you cross past the Georgia Tech campus with a hard 45-degree angle turn to the left, a big billboard up there with a QR code.
You can't scan that.
You could scan that QR code without crashing your car. You're pretty fanatic, at driving and texting at the same time. But I think they're a valuable resource if applied properly. And there's I see plenty of people doing. We've dabbled a bit with our real estate company and utilizing that in print ads. Now I will tell you that the opportunity for QRs and the gadgets that are coming that I've seen out there are just going to be phenomenal for the marketer, for the guy trying to gather data on the consumer out there. So there's some neat stuff coming down the pipe.
Awesome. Okay, so maybe we need a show specifically around QR codes.
I would not be your person on that, but there's plenty of people out there that are, they're super savvy on that stuff, and I always go to the resource, so it takes.
I actually use a QR code behind at the back of my business card, and when they scan it, it goes to the YouTube channel that broadcasts these workshops. But I'm sure there's plenty of clever ways to use it.
Yeah, so, think of the guy on Christmas night, and he's putting the bicycle together and he's ripping all this stuff up and he goes, wow, he's trying to read these instructions, right? He can't figure it out. And there's, step A, step B, or 1, 2, 3, and he gets to 3 and he goes, man, but there's a QR code there. Right?
There's a video on it.
It goes, hey, and this is how I know you're having a problem fixing this. Do this, and those type applications are just tremendous customer service applications.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So when you create a budget in the beginning of the year, would you modify it in the middle of the year, or how often, on average, how often do you have to modify your marketing budget?
Well, it just depends on the business. There's always budget deviations that you're going to deal with. Certainly, you project, and any small business knows that you got to rob a little bit over here to get by a little bit over there. But so it's got to be some kind of fluid, and depending on your budget that you're dealing with, even in a large organization where you're dealing with, just say a $5 million budget, you're going to have budget deviations throughout the year that you have to deal with. So certainly, you're going to monitor that. There again, as I said, I think nowadays with the fast-moving media, the opportunities for public relations to instantaneously get the message out, that you have to be a little bit more nimble out there than you were 10 years ago. So yes, you're going to say, hey, there's this event, we have opportunity, so you're going to flood that money from over there and reallocate it, and you might need to inflate or deflate a little bit depending on that. So it's not something that, I think if you're a 5-person operation and you've got X amount of dollars, then you're going to set that money and let it ride. But if you're a 400-person and you've got X amount of budget, then you're going to see that you have to readjust or be a little bit more nimble. So does that make sense?
Yes. Now, one thing that social media it's very human resource intensive. And the fact that the basic formula that about, what did you say, 10 to 20% of your revenue should be?
Gross revenue, yes.
Gross revenue for marketing. Given that social media is much more salary intensive, do you think when a company shifts from just traditional marketing to including social media heavily, do you think that ratio changes, or is that formula basically remains the same? Because you have to take into account salary, right?
Yeah, clarify are you speaking about a social media company, or are you talking about a company that
just a business?
Well, certainly in that 10, or I might not have been clear on that, in that 10 to 20% range that you're using, that does include your labor. So if you are going to say, hey, we're going to bring somebody on, or we're going to start doing this this social media, then you're going to either have to allocate more or deviate that money from one place to another to accommodate for that. But that budget does include the labor associated with that. Certainly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I want to see if any of our viewers or participants have any questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I'll change the screen to you. Anybody has any questions? Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself? First of all, unmute yourself and we can't hear you yet. Let me see. Oh, he froze. Ramtin froze. He froze. I don't know what happened. Eunice, do you have a question? No? No? How about you, Deborah? Do you have any questions, Deborah? I can't hear you. Okay.
No, I've got it. I'm there. I just had myself muted out so that I wouldn't disturb anybody in case something happened over here.
Thank you.
Do you use any type of social media tools to help you with time saving?
In my operation, I do use Hootsuite. I mean, I use some efficiency type tools. I also have.
Randy, just a second. There's an echo. Debbie, you might want to turn off.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, I use. I guess you're asking me, do I have an enterprise that I use to help with my social media in my business? We use Hootsuite like most people do. I'm still pretty much a believer in old school, especially in the social media realms of you got to touch it, you got to see it. So I don't use too much automation beyond that. We use, like most people out there, we use the Facebook scheduling, and I mentioned Hootsuite. We do some HubSpot stuff like that, but we contend with our clients. We pretty much, even when we're loading a hopper, we read everything that we post to a client's account and our account before to make sure that it is in vein with their vision of their brand as well as in vision with our brand.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Debbie? Yes? Do you have any questions, Eunice? No?
Hi everybody. I just wanted to add a comment.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
You might want to speak a little louder.
Is that any better?
Yes, a lot better.
Fantastic. I was just going to add on that, on the sharing and automation of posting of your content is when you schedule, I think you want to schedule tips or information that you want to share, but when you have discussions have to be real time. You have to be there to respond to any, feedback that you might get when you post something, because then it looks really silly when you ask a question and you're answering it 24 hours later. And I have had this happen. It's really embarrassing, but you do want to be real time when you post discussion type content.
Okay, thank you.
I totally agree, Eunice. It's nice to see you. You and I have exchanged a lot over the last year or so, so it's very nice to see you.
Yes, we have.
And you're keeping Atlanta safe, right?
We're trying.
I agree totally with what Eunice says, and in fact, my blog post from yesterday was on automation, the pros and cons of automation, and I got into a couple of Twitter exchanges on that with people in certain niches understanding that or stating that automation wouldn't work for their particular niche. I think that you can pretty much, I don't know that there's a niche out there that you can't do exactly what Eunice shared, and that is schedule tips and ideas, be it the pharma industry or the finance industry. But when you're starting to put out messages from your brand or something like that, then yes, you need to be actively monitoring and engaging with those type conversations. And two, I would say that you need to be cleaning up any comments that might be shared on the tips that you've shared over the automation. Make sure that you're policing that and monitoring that as well. But active engagement, I mean, we've all learned that as you go on and as you get consumed with social, that it becomes very apparent that the conversations are 24/7, never ending. So we're living in a global environment when we go social. So that's where the audience is.
So Pedro was unfortunately kicked out of the Hangout, but he typed his question, so I'm going to read it for you. It says, question was, as we move forward, do you see companies combining QRC codes to become a shortcut link to their advertising, like your desktop shortcuts? And how would that change the current marketing budget for reallocation of target marketing?
Well, I think that probably is already happening. Yes, I don't know when. I don't know. I think that things like that, even though we sit around and we see how rapid things are changing, when we say, is that going to reallocate money over there? I think money's being reallocated. Is it going to be a monumental impact to, say, IBM's television buys? Probably not. Would it be I mean, those are the type of people that you're going to be dealing with, or maybe even someone a bit smaller than that. But those are the people that move the market there. You're going to see that happening. And I'll share with you, I mentioned something too. It's not just to a straight advertising site. Think of the opportunity that exists to a brand, that if you have a point of purchase sitting on a shelf and Eunice walks by and picks that item up, and because Eunice has a whatever app, a location app or something on her iPhone or Android sitting there, it picks that up as soon as she picks it up. It registers in that if she puts it back on the shelf. So she puts it back on the shelf and she walks away, and it instantaneously dings her phone and says, hey, this is a message from, ABC Soaps. You just picked up that soap and we'd like to know why you put it back on the shelf. I mean, that technology is already there, already being utilized. So those are reallocations of monies. I don't know that it necessarily is going to take money away from existing budgets, but it is allowing the marketers to understand why Eunice didn't buy that. What do we need to do to make that? Do we need to go back to production and fix that, or is it packaging? Did your packaging not, just didn't entertain me? It didn't say enough, or something like that. So those are the type. That's the exciting stuff that I see coming down. Conversation and content and things like that, and driving and engaging with consumers. Okay, so you've got 400 people on your Facebook account, or you got 1,000 people on your Twitter account. But what are they really interested in? They talk to you about something there, but what actually, when it comes back down to it, we as marketers are in charge of moving product and making a return on investment out there. So that's the stuff that I think where it's exciting. So yes, to answer his question, those things are going to be are being used. They're going to be used more in the future. The future being tomorrow, and more is going to come from it.
Well, one thing. Sorry, go ahead.
And think about the opportunity there when Eunice picked up that product. She put it back maybe because it wasn't our budget. It's an opportunity for us marketers to say, gosh, we look to to sell so many units of this item this month. Hey, how about we push a coupon to her and tell her, hey, heads up, it's 20% off. So I've seen opportunities there.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's the same concept that's been going on forever. It's just the opportunities that we have with the technologies that's there. So the guy walks on the car lot and he talks to Randy about buying a new pickup truck. And he goes, yeah, but I'm a whichever brand guy, and you don't have the color I like, you know. So he walks off. The sales manager comes over and says, Randy, why did the guy walk off the lot? Well, we don't have any red trucks on the lot. Sales manager goes, well, we got to get some red trucks on the lot. You know, it just gives you that. It gives you that kind of data that you need to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great points. Now, one thing that became really clear was that there is a need to measure our marketing activities. And there's a lot of worry among some business owners or social media professionals. There's long been a discussion about how difficult it is to measure the ROI of social media marketing. Do you feel it's as difficult as people say it is?
Yes, I do. I think certain aspects of social media are, difficult to measure. I'm not discounting the importance of social media whatsoever. I'm not discounting the importance of having someone inside of your workforce sitting there engaging. And two, I've long been a brand ambassador believer that everybody in an organization should be your first brand ambassadors. You know, they're your marketing force. Even the person that's, you know, screwing a widget together, they're a marketing person, so you got to have them to buy into that. Excuse me, but certain aspects that you get caught up in the weeds of that. There's a certain amount of marketing that's the cost of doing business that you have to provide out there. So there's a blurring of lines with social media in my mind of, does it reside in the marketing department? Does it reside in the public relations department? And in my mind, public relations is always underneath the umbrella of marketing. Even though they've always been treated separately. So you just have to fund that. But yes, I think that anything that a business is doing and employing, then you have to be covering that cost. So there has to be measures placed on that. Now, how, you know, what's beneficial to Randy and his business might not be beneficial to Sherry and her business. So you place certain values on that. But yeah, I think it's very difficult. I don't think that there's you know, umpteen different arguments about and different theories about how to measure that, and I really haven't found the one specific to social that really resonates with me. But I do believe that you have to have some kind of measure there to benefit it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now the benefit could be Sherry goes out and has a client and she's saying, hey, I got to have this Facebook page. Well, you need to show some kind of conversion factor of what the Facebook page is doing for them. You know, whether it's, you know, a person sent them a question or the person visited their business or whatever. There's a measure there that you can place in that.
Mm-hmm. How realistic is it when you send reports to your clients? How far apart those reports should you be? I've seen proposals on Facebook, not on websites of people that claim are social media agencies, and they include weekly reports or bi-weekly reports. But I don't think really weekly reports make any sense because social media takes time. So how far apart should those reports be that would actually give the client valuable input as to the success of the social media activities?
Well, I think it's going to rely again on the enterprise. I mean, if you're Coca-Cola, a weekly report might be very beneficial to the marketing guy or the guy that's sitting there putting the report together. But for the most part, I agree with you. A weekly report, even a monthly report, sometimes it's hard to gauge on that. you know, and if I mean, we all know that if somebody comes into a business in the social, you know, arena and says, "Hey, I'm going to blow your Facebook numbers out of the water, and I just trust in me," then you know you better be doing your due diligence about what's out there. That, I think that goes back to my presentation. You know, you got to shuck and jive a little bit and get out of the business a little bit. So do whatever you can to cover your bases. But yeah, a weekly report on Facebook. Those type numbers I tend not to pay that much attention to. But that said, everybody in the big push with social media and the attention that's been given it and the rush to market with a bunch of people out there now that are, you know, social media professionals. You walk into anybody and everybody says, "Hey, I got to get a Facebook page, and I've got to get a this page, and I've got to be on Google Plus because that's where my customers are." Mm-hmm. That's in their mind. That's in the client's mind, and then we as professionals have to, you know, come back and say, well, you know, what are your expectations, and then it's up to us to paint a realistic expectation.
Exactly.
I want to add, Sherry, that a small retailer with an e-commerce site may benefit from a weekly report as opposed to a consulting company. You know, if you have an e-commerce site where you're selling widgets or tools or jewelry or whatnot, you want to see how much merchandise you're moving and how it's doing on your Facebook page and what people like and what people don't, and so you know what to put on your social media sites. Waiting a month to find out you made mistakes is too long a time. I think maybe after you've put together, you've gotten a baseline of what your customers want to see on their Facebook page, you can then defer back to a monthly reporting.
So in the beginning, you think there should be reporting more often?
Yes, so that you get a baseline and understanding of who your followers are. And since you're just beginning to build that following, when you have 10, 100 people and as fans, it's hard to gauge what they're like. And you know, really, they don't come back as often. I say up to maybe 6% of your fans come back to your fan page. It's difficult to get them to coming back. So you want to make sure you're tweaking that so that they can come back often when you're putting out content that they like.
But does the client really need to see that, or is this for you who are doing the work to see it?
I think it's both. At first, just to keep it honest and so the client knows, I mean, you've set aside a budget for this and you want to justify for it, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so you got to show the client this is what's working, this is why you need me here. For me, I can say this is why you need me here, but overall, this is why you need it for your business, so you know what you need to do.
So as an educational tool, you
Exactly.
Okay, that's a great point.
But to dovetail on what she mentioned is, and two, in today's time, it's so easy. So if you do have an e-commerce, like she mentioned that, you know, you find out what's working. So in other words, there's an item sitting there that's not moving, but there's another item that is. Then you can, like we said earlier, you can cut and chase and change on the fly, very easily adapt to what is moving and fix that. So that's the benefit that the technology that we have today, and having somebody monitor that can tell that feedback. So it's very important, especially with an e-commerce. I mean, in today's time, you wait a month and you might have lost your window of opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, okay, those are such great points. Well, I want to, Debbie, do you have any more questions? No? Okay. And I don't see any questions on the comments, so thank you very much, Randy, and for everybody. The next segment of our program is what's happened in social media for the past week. So you are welcome to stay around and give your input. And if you have things to do, I know it's a Friday afternoon, I totally understand. Would you like to stay, or?
I'll stick around with you, Sherry.
Okay.
I'll stick around too.
Awesome. How about you, Debbie? You gonna stay? Okay, looks like she is. Okay, so what's happened in the past week? I'm sure I'm not going to cover everything that is new because there's always a lot new, but this is what I've captured. One conversation that I saw on Google Plus was that somebody who also does interviews, he does Hangouts, and I was hoping he could come and share it with us, but he wasn't available. What he shared was that, at least in Canada, it seems like Google is capturing the information of businesses that are on yellow pages, the paper yellow pages, and including it into their Google local listings. So whether a local business, mom and pop shop, have done the effort to go create a Google Place page or something for themselves on Google, that is really not relevant anymore, because what Google has done, it has scanned all those pages out of paper yellow pages, and now your business, whether you like it or not, has a place on Google Places, or Google local pages. And what can happen is that people can, when they search, let's say, for a pizza place or whatever, and around their area, then if your shop comes up and if there is a negative review and you don't know about it, it could basically hurt your competitive advantage. So take a note of it. If you have a mom or local shop, or if you have clients that have local shops, make sure that you check for the presence of the business on Google local pages and claim it, and take a look to see if there are any reviews. And another point that mentioned was that Google can rate any business and give it an average rating, and until you have 10 reviews, you don't get an average rating, and you want to make sure that you have the average rating. So that's another incentive to ask your clients to really rate your place. Do either of you have anything to add?
I agree. I mean, you know, it all comes back down to getting people to your website. So you got to use those Google rankings that you can, and it's just an easy thing nowadays to go in there and create. If you're not there, to create your profiles and to put your business in there. If you're not doing that, you need to get Eunice or Sherry to help you with that and start building a robust presence online as best you can with your business. I mean, that's
Randy.
Well, I'll be glad to help you. So, but you know, I mean, in reality, that's just the way businesses work. I mean, you know, the argument about people window shopping and box shopping now, you know, I'm not the only one in my age bracket that has an iPhone that I research everything before I buy it. So if I'm driving down the road and I want to go to a pizza place, I'm going to use that phone to find it. Typically, if I'm someplace where I've never been before. So that's what you do.
It seems like businesses now need to really pay a lot of attention on online reputation management, and allocate some budget for somebody to do that all the time, especially if you're a local business.
Yep. Absolutely.
You were going to say something?
I was going to say that, you know, I remember 7 years ago when I started my business, we had a rep from Yellow Pages visit us, and we're trying to figure out where to place our listing. And when you think about it, once that is put in place and it's printed and the book goes out, it's done. There's no fixing anything about it after that. It's done for the year till the next time you have to put it in there. Nowadays, that Yellow Pages, if I find that on my front door, it's going straight to recycle. I never look at the damn thing. Excuse me. I don't. And so when
Still
you want,
expensive too.
I know. And I think Yellow Pages folks have figured it out that nobody wants the big thick books anymore. But yeah, so every business owner ought to understand that, you know, some of these things are dying down. You need to be online. Make sure you're checking your profile, because people are updating, people are looking for you there. And if you're not, you've lost the customer potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a shift in demographics that's going on. I mean, there's still the benefit of being in that local publication.
Yes.
I mean, you don't want to discount that and lose that demographic, but I mean, you know, you gotta think about the baby boomer class that I happen to be out of. I mean, we're approaching, you know, we're getting into that 60 age demographic. But everybody I know, pretty much everybody I know, at least 90% of the people I know that's in my demographic, I would say 95% of the people in my demographic, except my brother, is connected in some way, and he's a little bit older, not much, but he's a little bit older, is connected in some way digitally. I mean, they're wired. So that is a major shift that's going on. And then you look at that active demographic above mine that is, you know, a lot of those people are doing that. I mean, that's so there is Eunice is right, that Yellow Page publication is dying. It's not necessarily going away, it's just going online.
I think it's going to be local intensive, in that instead of getting that huge big book, you're getting that neighborhood community listing, and you want to be on that too. Get that huge.
Carrie, could you mute yourself? Thank you. Okay. Yes, and now that we're talking about reputation management, I just wanted to bring to your attention that next week we're going to be discussing reputation management, and we're going to focus on Yelp. Yelp is a website that I often, that's the only place I go, either on my Facebook page, ask my Facebook friends, or go to Yelp and research it. And that also, Yelp comes with its you know, good, bad, and ugly aspects of it. So we're gonna have, next week we're going to discuss it. And Carrie Jenig, my friend, just joined us. Hi, Carrie. Okay, so next news is that Google has redesigned its AdWords offering, and they call it AdWords Enhanced Campaigns. And the difference is that Google is taking control away from the people that are the ad managers in some ways. And the goal of this is to gain a greater and increasing market share for the mobile advertising. So the way used to be is that campaign managers would create a campaign and then they would clone it, and they would set each one of them for either tablets or desktop or mobile, and targeted for local or timing. But right now there's just, you create one campaign, and then everybody starts with a default pricing for both desktop and tablets, because in Google's experience, and you know they have a lot of data, they feel that the customer behavior is very similar on desktops and mobile, and no, not mobile, on desktops and tablets. So you get a initial default, what you start with, bidding. And then if you wanted to include mobile, you start increasing the bidding, so the pricing goes up for the bidding if you wanted to add mobile. If you didn't want to include mobile at all, you set up the bidding for mobile to minus 100%. So your ad doesn't show up on mobile phones at all. If you wanted to increase the share for mobile compared to desktop and tablets, for example, you say positive some number. So that, I thought that was very interesting, and in a way Google has put itself in a position where it is making decisions for business owners and for us, that's my view, based on the data it has. Data is valuable, and it's kind of in tune with the direction that the leaders of Google want to take us. And I read an article sometime, and it says they want to take Google to a place where when you open up your browser already knows what you're searching for. You get into a car and your car already knows where you're going. So another aspect of that is that it's that fight between Facebook and Google, and we're always so worried about Facebook getting our data and having control. You want to think about that. Google also has a lot of data about us, and look at the goal where they're taking us. So just be cautious. My message is that don't sort of put all your eggs in one basket, like Randy said in the beginning, and realize that both Facebook and all these websites that we're using for free are using our information. Anybody has anything to share about this topic? Randy?
I'll add some. I don't. Hey, Carrie, it's nice to see you. I don't think. I mean, there's plenty of haters out there, just like Fords and Chevys. You know, you got your things, and Google's the big elephant that people love to, you know, throw peanuts at occasionally. But you can't beat Google. You know, it's just what it is. And to think that, you know, think how long Google's been around, and before Facebook, when you used to go online and you would say, hey, you know, I've got a rash on my stomach. What's this rash? You know, and you'd ask a question, right? Well, Google has that. They've always had it, and they've got everything that you could imagine on you, on everybody out there. So, yeah, is that data valuable, and how they're using it? I mean, if you have a digital footprint, then you've pretty much given over your privacy. Now, I'm not advocating that. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for creeps and cruds out there to take advantage of that, and you got to protect yourself. But if you're playing in the digital space and you've done something, they pretty much can farm that and they can sell it. I mean, they're in the business to make money. Yeah. Facebook, I mean, from day one, Facebook, when it started courting business opportunities, the goal was to make money. I mean, you know, so when people start, and they always do, they get a little angst about a change here or a tweak there. It's still it's free to enter, you know. So that's there. If you enter, you accepted their terms of service. So and now I think I read a great blog post by Mark Schaefer this week that said, hey, just let me pay you. You know, let me pay you for that and deal with it that way. I mean, I think Facebook is wrestling with that. The dilemma that they've got themselves into is, you know, it was how they positioned themselves and how they attracted everybody. Well, they did that to grow that audience to utilize that data that they would have. Very valuable.
Anybody else? Carrie? No? Eunice, do you have anything to say? No? Oh, okay. All right. So next, another news with Google is that has to do with Google+, and if you are managing any communities, if we all want to make sure that our communities are clean and we're sharing, we don't want people that create spam or postings that we don't like. So if someone in your community posts, flags a post as spam, you have the opportunity with one click to report the person, remove them, and also ban that person from the community. So that's an added tool. I'm sure there's a whole lot of stuff that is going on with Google Plus that I haven't been able to keep up with. Do you guys know anything new that Google Plus has added the past week?
I just learned something. That's great. I'm glad to hear that, Sherry.
Okay, good. Anybody else? No? Okay. All right. So, Facebook. I don't know. Do you guys ever use Facebook friendship pages? Apparently there is, and it has been available, and today was the first time I looked at it. Apparently you can see the history of how you are connected to somebody. So if you go to the desktop, to the web application, and you go to someone's profile, and on the top there's that wheel thingy, you click it and you can go on the friendship page. You can look at your relationship with a particular person. It gives you a timeline of how you're connected with a particular person, when you first met, who your shared friends are, what type of posts you've liked or shared and stuff with them. It's really a lot. It's a great source of information for you to really understand the people you're friends with, especially those of us who use it as a business connection tool. And then the news was, apparently this has been available since November of last year, but the news is that now that feature has become available to the mobile web application for Facebook. So there's a mobile web app and there's a native app that is for that Facebook application that we use to connect with people. And that option is available. You can actually see your Facebook friendship page on the mobile web Facebook application. For the web application, you only see it when somebody gives you a gift. So I learned something. There's so much to know about Facebook, and I've learned something. Do you think you're going to start looking at it? Yeah?
I'll add something that I've started doing lately on Facebook, and that's, you know, there was a tremendous rush to build audience out there originally, still is, but I mean, and I see it more and more. I've always tried to keep my profile totally separate from my business page. I do the same, and I coach those clients that we deal with to do that. I see a proliferation of, and it's always been a misunderstanding of how that works. A lot of people, you know, didn't understand the difference between profiles and pages to begin with. And there's just a tremendous amount of, I mean, because of the filter options that you have out there, there just seems to be a tremendous amount of business infiltration on the profile side of it. People still use that. So I've started, and I've noticed a lot of people having some angst about that and trying to filter those conversations out. And I think try to rein their engagement back to a more family, friend type environment, and not be bombarded with a pitch here, a pitch there, constantly out there. So what I've tried to do is, both on my business account and my personal, is I've started weeding some of that out. Some of that stuff that, you know, it doesn't quite fit. If people haven't really engaged with me, and I know that a lot of people say, well, I engage with everybody I got. You know, and there's an argument out there that there's a lot of people that are silent and they like what you're doing, but they don't maybe participate. Well, I kind of weigh that. Just depends on that. So I'm not just blanket wiping that out, but I've learned some lessons through the fake buys and things that have all been uncovered over the last year or so out there, and trying to deal with that. So I've been more inclined to trim back and make sure that you're getting valid relationships and utilizing those platforms to do that. So that said, I can see where the option that you just shared, Sherry, would help identify that more so when you start making those type decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Carrie, what do you think? You're our Facebook diva. You want to add something?
You know, I have to say that I haven't really used the relationship pages too much. You know, every once in a while I'll take a look, but it didn't seem to be such a huge deal for me, because those that I was interacting with, I knew how we were related. But I guess what Randy's saying is that, you know, if you really are looking at, wow, who's attached to me and how do I want to be found in the graph search, you know, I guess that would be valuable. That it's on the mobile web. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine it being uber useful, because, you know, usually when you're on the go, you're clicking, you're sharing, you're not doing that. So I'm not sure what the thought process is there. I wonder what it's leading to. That's my question.
Yeah, there's always a reason for,
more data.
Probably.
Maybe the fact that it's for the native app, the fact that it's attached to gifts, and when somebody sends you a gift, you want to know why somebody sent you a gift. Should you? Yeah, I don't know.
You know, and it does go back to what I said about Google. You know, if you ever typed in there, I've got a rash on my stomach, what's this rash? Well, you know, and my around the fire conversation's always been about we're all closet warriors and we like to peer in people's lives. Facebook gives us that opportunity. It's amazing what people share on Facebook. We're all amazed every day, right? What you see on there. So if you're putting stuff on there, they're data mining that, and you know, that's what they're going to use it for.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know I'm not supposed to talk, but I had an instance yesterday that I'm involved in a business type group on Facebook, and it's one of those secret things you don't know it exists unless you're in it. And there's a person in there that, you know, I would think that if you're in that situation, you are hoping to step yourself up and up your game and maybe refine what you're putting online and get some strategy behind it. And I just found this amazingly uncharacteristic of that statement made by a member of the group, and I was just so stunned that they would put this online knowing that, especially in the social space, people are going to look at that, and you can't ever take that away.
Yeah.
I was stunned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I agree. We have to be careful what we put out there. Anyway, so sorry, go ahead. Eunice, were you going to say something? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Hold on.
Okay,
Hear me
good.
now?
Yes.
Sorry, I had myself on mute there. I was going to say, I remember a couple of months back, Facebook had an article out, or somebody had an article out that some of the profiles on Facebook were fakes, were bots made by people trying to spam folks on Facebook. I think it's one way of them trying to make sure that you are who you are. Think back to when you upload pictures, they now want you to identify the person that's in the picture, and that recognition goes back to their profile, that then this is a legit profile. I think that's where that's coming from.
Oh, I see.
Validating that we have real people, that there's a real person behind this profile. It's not a fake profile.
So is that a requirement?
Okay,
or
that's
an
what
option?
I think it's just their back end thing to try and validate profiles rather than, because we've got those numbers out there, billions or trillions of people on Facebook, but that's probably not true because some of them are spammy profiles.
I see. So it would be equivalent of the real author tool for Google Plus.
Yes.
Where you authenticate people.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
Yeah, it's valuable. So thank you for your input. Another piece of news, I want to kind of introduce it as a part of our Tools of Efficiency segment. Every week I share a tool that makes our work more efficient, and one tool that everybody's been raving about and everybody loves is Buffer app. And basically what you do, you go into the Buffer app, you choose the specific times that you want to share information to your social networking sites, and then set it up once, and then Buffer app gives you a little icon that is added on to your browser, and when you find something that's really interesting that you want to share, all you do is click that icon, it opens up, you choose which social networks you want to share it on, and then click Buffer, and it sends it out to your social network at a time that you have chosen. So it's targeted. All you have to do is to choose those times once. So that's really efficient. And now what's happened is that Buffer has been integrated into Feedly. Buffer has a mobile app, but I've never been able to find a way to streamline finding information on my mobile phone and using Buffer app to feed it into my social networks. I found it really cumbersome. So I never use, although I have the app, I never use Buffer when I'm using my mobile phone. But now Buffer has been integrated into Feedly, and Feedly is a news reading app for iOS, Android, and also for the web, which when the fact that it's integrated makes me want to use Feedly now on my phone, that just, it makes life so much more efficient. Now, I want to ask my panel to say, my friends, anything you have to say about Buffer? Maybe there's some things that I missed. Any of you want to say anything? Randy?
I don't use Buffer, so I have to say that I'm going to have to stay silent on that one.
Okay. Carrie?
Okay, Sherry. This might surprise you. I have a Buffer account, but I've used it twice.
Oh, okay.
I'm intrigued by what this helps mobile users do, but because my systems are not geared with Buffer, I feel kind of like, oh man, you know. So I think it could be efficient for those that are using Buffer. I think it will help people who are not typically sharing as much, maybe share more with the mobile connection.
Yeah, that's what actually going to help me do, because I've always found sharing through my mobile, because I read a lot on my phone.
Yeah.
That's going to change the game for me. How about you, Eunice? Do you use Buffer?
I was a fan of Buffer until I found Sprout Social, and I tell you, it's Buffer and then some, because it does let you do the scheduling like you want it to do, but it also lets you tailor it to an audience. It also lets you post it multiple times. Say you have, gosh, I'm trying to think of a perfect example, but I know you can post the same content over a month, or if you want, or over a couple of days at a certain time. It right now is not integrated with Google Plus, but neither is Buffer. But Sprout Social actually works for me far better than Buffer does.
Okay, so your tool of choice for scheduling to multiple platforms is Sprout Social?
Sprout Social.
Okay.
It does more than what Buffer does.
Okay. How does it compare to Hootsuite?
Hootsuite is overwhelming to me. It is not a very clean user interface. It's I don't know what to say about it, but I tell you this: Sprout Social is far cleaner. It doesn't look as chaotic as Hootsuite does. Hootsuite's advantage, though, is that you then can post to groups, and you can also post to your social, your Google Plus. Yesterday, I understood that Sprout Social is going to integrate Google Plus as well, so I'm very excited about that. They've integrated LinkedIn. The four major social networks that we want to use: your Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much.
Okay. Does Sprout Social give you insight into your followers and people that are following you?
Gives you your demographics, age groups, geography, very beautiful analytics, and I'm an analytics junkie. So I can tell you today which post of my clients went viral or didn't. Real time, actually, reporting,
Okay.
which is fantastic.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
I have a Sprout Social account, not utilize it as, and I haven't been a convert like Eunice has, but I can tell you this, that many of my engagers out there rave. I mean, I've heard nothing but accolades heaped on Sprout Social, so it is one of the premier enterprises out there.
Okay. Well, okay, that's great. That makes me want to take a look at it a little bit more. Well, thank you very much, Randy, Eunice, and Carrie. Thank you so much for teaching us about how to create a budget and staying on for the 2 segments of our show. I want to remind you that next week we're going to be talking about reputation management and Yelp. We're going to focus on Yelp. And I also want to ask you that if you watched this video and you enjoyed what you heard, you found it valuable, please click the like button and share it so other people can take advantage of the education. And Randy, if people wanted to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can just connect with me at on Twitter is the easiest one at Bowden to Bowden. So that would be the easiest connect. So
So
look for me.
Bowden, number 2, Bowden.
That's correct. Bowden to Bowden.
Okay, so thank you very much again for giving us your time. I realize it's Friday, and but
I got a drink waiting for me. Now it's time to go relax. So.
okay. So thank you very much again.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you again.
You're welcome. And with that, I'm going to bring this show to an end. And until next week.